This is the Refinery District, Winnipeg's latest transit-oriented development, a term that's pretty self-explanatory. Development that is oriented around transit. Believe it or not, this site will look completely different 2 years from now. There are 2,000 residential units going on this site, all multifamily, going from apartments to townhouses to 55-plus living. This development is situated between Pembina Highway and Waverley Street, just off of Bishop Grandin. This is going to be a thriving neighborhood one day, and it is built alongside the Southwest Transit Corridor, which is one of the reasons why it was aligned this way, so that transit-oriented development could be built like this. Now, Plaza Station is the closest station. It's just over there. Why don't we go and have a look at how close it is to these buildings? So as you can see, Plaza Station is over here on my left-hand side, and there is another apartment building going up on my right-hand side. Now, Plaza Station is relatively close. It's not right in the development, but it is a reasonable walking distance at only about 2 minutes, really. However, there is currently no sidewalk or pathway to get from the Refinery District to Plaza Station. And from what I can tell, there isn't one under construction anytime soon. So even though there are people already moving into this development right here, the transit system is not really accessible, even though this is a transit-oriented development. So how do we build transit-oriented development more efficiently, more effectively, and more accessibly? That's something that today's mayoral candidate really wants to talk about. I'm so excited for today's interview. This is Transit Talks Election 2022. Today I'm joined with Chris Clacio, who is a civic, I'm going to let you say
a civic practitioner and a policy entrepreneur.
Perfect. Amazing. Chris, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. Your policy, I have it here. I encourage everyone that's watching this to actually go and look up Chris's policy, because it is a very comprehensive document. And to say that you are passionate about civics and about governance, I think is an understatement. This is very clearly something you love very much. So it's no mystery to me as to why you're running for mayor. So congratulations. One of the first people to get all your signatures and nominated. What's really interesting to me is, again, the governance side of things in your policy, right? I think maybe let's talk about how you want to redo the committees and the governing, specifically when it relates to public transit.
And one of the big changes I really want to see is a special operating agency in the city of Winnipeg for a transit-oriented development agency. One of my dreams is to even upload that service to the capital region. Here in Manitoba, we have the Capital Region Partnership Act of 2006, which basically essentially means that the 17 municipalities around the city of Winnipeg must work with the city of Winnipeg for city services. Okay. And for me, I think transit-oriented development and zoning and city planning, that's a crucial piece to this conversation about what we want as citizens for a perfect or the best transportation system.
I agree, and transit-oriented development is something that we have attempted in this city, and it works in some areas, but there are some areas too where it's still very car-oriented and still very car-dependent to live in a transit-oriented development. What are things that you'd like to see change with how we do transit-oriented development here in Winnipeg?
One is part of the civic process is citizens being at the table all through the process, from the design, the development, and the evaluation of the program. Okay. If people who of lived experience aren't sharing the lived experience of using the city services, then the system will fail citizens. Yeah. And that's what we don't want.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'd love to live in a transit-oriented development here in Winnipeg, and I think we need a lot more of them. Now let's talk about Winnipeg Transit. Based on what you've heard from people and what your own experiences are too, what do you think Winnipeg Transit really has to improve on to become a better transit system?
I think they really need to be better at explaining and showing people why this plan is the plan right for Winnipeg. When I try to engage a lot of politicians and city staff, I make the assumption that they don't want to listen to my perspective. Maybe because I'm not a home ownership. I don't think I can ever be in that place in my life at this point. And so they really need to get outside perspectives, not just homeowners. It's renters as well. I'm a renter, and I think renting is the only option for me at this point in my life. And so we really need to look at the local context of what is missing and fill those in. And
Yeah.
that's missing in the way city staff engage other diverse populations within our demographic in the city.
Yeah, and I mean, look, a lot of the transit-oriented development too that we have in the city are rentals, especially if you look at the refinery district. There's a lot of rentals going in there now next to the Plaza Rapid Transit Station, but the rents are very expensive, right? And I mean, we're talking like a huge rent increase over the last few years even, since I started renting here. And I mean, it's important for life to be affordable when you live next to transit as well, right? So it's definitely an interesting conversation, something worth looking at. The Transit Master Plan, you did bring it up. It's a 25-year plan that the City of Winnipeg has put together for public transit here in Winnipeg. What are your thoughts on the Transit Master Plan?
One of the things that I feel like is missing in the public discourse or civic discourse is when the city applied for the funding from the federal government, one of the requirements was to finish everything in the application process within 2027. And so we have to complete everything that was within the Winnipeg Transit Master Plan. And that's the main focus. It's already in our application process that we have to finish the program. So I don't get why there's so much frustration about this is a 25-year plan. No, this is within the scope of 8 years. I can see that happening. But again, it's thinking about long-term consequences. If we don't do it now, frequency, that is one of the crucial things that will make this more efficient. And I truly believe that we need to finish that within the first term if I was, when I get elected, right? So.
No, I agree. The ISIP application definitely should be a priority, and we have the money, it's financed, we should just be doing that. I know in your plan you say you want to have it all done by 2030. Does that include the infrastructure, like the Union Station conversion, or is it just the ISIP application?
I think for me, as someone who's not within government, I do not know the devil's in the details.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons why I want to run for public office, because the mayor's office, they get all the information, and so I can't engage with other departments if I'm not even allowed to speak with any of the key people. And so winning an election is all that matters at this point, because whatever policies that candidates have, if they're not elected, then there's no point. And so I don't want to be wasting people's time. For me, I feel like we can get it done. The question is, why are we not doing it now?
Right. Absolutely. I want to talk about rapid transit too, because that is a big part of the Winnipeg Transit Master Plan. And rapid transit is something that Winnipeg has pursued for years, and we have it. We have our first line now. What are your thoughts on rapid transit, and is this something that we should continue pursuing in the city?
When I think about 2014 and the commitment to finish all 6 lines of the bus rapid transit system, I believe that was the wrong choice of language. I believe that we should have put that 2.33% and that 0.33% away from finishing the bus rapid transit lines and actually finishing the active transportation network.
Okay.
And so if we had the active transportation network, that way we can also build transit around the finished active transportation system. And that's part of my frustration is when city planners plan, they're not planning the big picture. Even though we have Our Winnipeg plan, there's nothing in it that talks about transit-oriented development in the sense that the way it's built, it's about land use and city planning, not about transit. And now that the city has a Winnipeg Transit Master Plan, a transportation plan, a master transportation plan, there is a mixed messaging. And as an everyday citizen, I'm confused about where are we at.
Right. I agree. And I think something that you talk about in your platform that I'm really excited to see is you do talk about a regional light rail network. When you say a regional light rail network, what do you mean by that?
Like I said, we have the Capital Region Partnership Act of 2006.
Yeah.
And recently, the province changed the Planning Act and the City of Winnipeg Charter Amendment Act to create a regional body for the Capital Planning Region,
Okay.
or which is called the Winnipeg Metro Region at this point.
Okay.
And so, I believe that if all 17 municipalities with the city being the leader, we can leverage our relationship with all 17 municipalities to get the funding from higher levels of government.
Yeah.
One thing that people don't understand about the political system is what makes municipal governments different from higher levels of government.
Right.
And that's related to the Constitution. Municipalities are not represented in the Constitution, which gives questions of jurisdiction. And we see that the political climate is politicians always fight or make excuses about that's not my jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Well, I believe regional governments will be crucial, or regional bodies will be crucial in designing how we build our cities, specifically here in Manitoba
Right.
in the future.
Well, you talk a lot about having different municipalities here in the province work together. I think that's amazing. That's something that we need to see more of. Is the collaboration between Winnipeg and East St. Paul and Headingley and all the different, like you said, the metro region. A regional light rail network, are you envisioning having light rail lines run from Winnipeg into these smaller centers around
Correct.
Winnipeg? Okay.
Correct. One of the concerns that I hear people complaining about from rural municipalities is they come into our city, but they don't pay to use the services. This way, if we really focus on changing people's ways of getting into the city, I think the light rail transit system will change people's culture of car dependency, and that's not happening. We need to shift our ways of thinking about multimodal spaces of how we get to one point to another point. And this conversation about they're not paying taxes, it doesn't matter if they're not paying taxes. The point is that they are citizens using our services,
Right.
so they should have a say and be part of that conversation to really have a holistic plan in how we implement services in our city and the province.
Well, that's great. And I think if we talk about light rail, I mean, we also have to talk about bus rapid transit, because this is the never-ending debate, it seems, in Winnipeg of LRT or BRT. And I'm just curious where you stand on it. Very clearly, you want to build light rail transit, but are you supportive of as well of bus rapid transit?
For me, personally, I feel like we can finish the bus rapid transit after we get a light rail transit system.
Okay.
And so the conversation between whether it's light rail or bus rapid transit, I want to go beyond that conversation and talk about, for example, the future is the creation of a spaceport.
Right.
So
I want to talk about that too. But I just want to finish on light rail first. Let's say you get elected mayor on October 26th, I think is election day. What would be the first light rail line that you would put into Winnipeg? Where would you put it?
I would have to speak with the city planners and really talk with the experts. I'm not an expert. I just understand that citizens have felt like their engagement has been underlacking.
Okay.
And so my first day is really letting people know that we are open for business for all citizens and to really focus on local economic development. And how to do that is we need citizens to be active in the civic process.
And you talk as well about Via Rail and their role in Canada and connecting communities across the city or many different cities in Canada. Do you envision working with the province, working with the federal government to make Via Rail connect Winnipeg to other centers around Winnipeg, like Brandon or Thompson or other places?
Correct. When I think about the future, I personally drive a vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like every other generation. I do want to get away from that, but the way we get around the city is very inefficient, and so we really do need to really think about as an everyday user of that service, what's lacking and whether other users feel the same way, and that conversation is not happening. That's why I feel like we work and talk about things in silos, And we need to stop bickering between which levels of government's role it is, and really just find the solutions and implement those solutions based on the experts on the topic. So I always believe that's the lived experiences that we must focus when we think about designing, development, and evaluation of city services.
More collaboration. I love it. And I agree. We need more collaboration. There's a lot of party politics, and we just need to realize that we all live in this wonderful place and we have to work together to keep it great. Now, you do talk about the future as well. I think you're looking not just 10 years ahead, not just 50 years ahead. You're looking, as far as 100 years ahead too.
I've been saying 10,000 years.
10,000 years ahead. Okay. So you mentioned a spaceport. I think you mentioned it around Centerport, using that land as an opportunity for spaceport. Let's talk about that a little bit.
For me, we have to go back to the history of our city. I've done my research because obviously I'm running for the office of the mayor. And part of the role of the mayor is understanding the local history about how we got to this place. We were called the Chicago of the North. We were called the gateway to the West. The reason why we were called that is we are at the center of our country. And for me, it's not just North America, it's the entire world. Yeah. And so Winnipeg could be a world-class leader in how we transport our new ideas, transport people's energies in something more holistic that serves everyone. And that's part of the reason that I wanted to run for public office is we hear people talking about vision.
Yeah.
Well, I hear the vision that every candidate has, and everyone's still complaining. And yet, I feel like thinking about creating a spaceport gets us away from bickering with each other and really ask the question, what do we want as citizens for our future?
Yeah.
And for me, I always talk about the creation of the Special Operating Agency on Transit-Oriented Development, but as well as the creation of a Department of Local Economic Development.
Okay.
And so when I think about that, I believe that economics, the future of our economy will be in the tech sector. Or what I think about the knowledge economies or STEAM jobs. So that would be science, technology, engineering, arts, and math jobs. That will be the crucial element that we really need to inform us of where do we want this city going to. And I see that's the magic of what this office of the mayor could do.
Yeah.
But again, it's about engaging that sector and engaging other levels of government that regulate those jobs. And so creating a spaceport, you really need the hardware and the technical skills and the software to really understand how that happens. And the average citizen, we just live our lives day to day. So we don't really think about these in that context. And for me, we really need to look at the bigger picture. And that's what the role of the mayor is.
Right.
Is to keep track of what the bigger picture is.
Yeah.
And that has never changed for me.
Well, I think you're absolutely right that the future of Winnipeg's economic development is in the tech sector. We're seeing it now. There's a lot of tech companies here in Winnipeg that are coming here and are kind of, I want to say they're rejuvenating downtown a little bit, giving lots of people new work, bringing a lot of new people to the city. And I think the STEAM is, you're spot on with that. So really interesting conversation. Thank you so much, Chris, for taking the time. For more information about Chris Clacio, where can people go?
You can go onto the City of Winnipeg website. I don't like sharing my website because it's a long title, and I do really want citizens to engage other candidates besides me, because this doesn't happen if we don't engage one another and really have a real conversation. So, and you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can hashtag PoliticsGenie to get more specific contact information for me.
Politics Genie, I think that's a perfect description.
Yeah, politics with an X, not a C.
I love it. I love it. And you're running as well, in your Twitter bio, it says you're running in 2026 and 2030 as well, right?
Correct.
So you're in it for the long run. I think
Correct.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Chris. Such a bright future if this is the future of our politicians. Really, I wish we had more people like you that are just so passionate about this.
One thing I was going to ask you is, You should run one day.
One day. Not this time around. Maybe one day. Thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah, thank you.